Hello everyone and welcome back to the Brightworks and another match of Beyond All Reason, where today I bring you into a game that was played quite recently here on Pinch Point. As it was said by the viewer that submitted this game over on the Discord channel, not a map that I take a look at all too often. I actually like this map a whole lot. I just don't take a look at it in casts all too often because it reminds me of some of the other matches that, or the other maps rather, that I tend to take a look at a little bit more. So let's give it its due diligence. Let's have a look here at it today. You know, I never realized that that's how the Cortex tidal generator worked. It's just a big floating buoy with a turbine underneath. This is such a weird side tangent, but just today I was researching diamond gears. Or what are they called? Diamond bearings, that's what it is. Polycrystalline synthetic diamond bearings. Yeah, because, you know, I guess diamonds slide against each other, and you can't really use grease underwater, so... yeah, they use diamonds instead. Anyways, sorry, completely off topic here. The Blue Commander, spawning in the water here as a Cortex Commander, of course. It's going to be none other than SK10. Clocking in at 41 open skill. Going to be setting the bar quite high here and going up against the red team. Well, not going up against, but going to be competing against the red team leader, spawning on the front line here. And, of course, it's MV Pete. The red commander with a pirate flag, but not spawning in the water. Going to be playing instead on the front line here as a bot commander. And, of course, as a Cortex commander as well. Going for some of those very high-powered Cortex units. Going to be trying to get some of those grunts out to the front eventually. Going for actually a constructor first here. Con first makes a lot of sense because there is some expansions to get back here. And it's going to take a while before you can get to them. So the con first, really, you're limited somewhat in your rush by the fact that, well, there we go. Ticks can't cross this water right here. So it does mean that, yeah, you're a little bit safer as a core commander from that tick harassment early on into the game. Now, we are playing on the new patch, so I'll sort of highlight things a little more specifically as we get into the match here, but to say the very least, all of these T1 units are going to be quite a bit more expensive. Grunts, pawns, ticks, all of it, they're all a little more expensive. They cost a little more metal, a little more energy, and their range has been slightly reduced. So the range at which they are effective has been shut down. Wow, two commanders on the blue team, both going for ticks into the water. Pretty funny. That's two Armada commanders that just learned that ticks can't cross shallow waters. If you go for rovers or rascals, either of those can actually cross the water. Ticks, however, they are not amphibious. They have no way. They have no. You know, they're not sealed against the water in any ways. Nothing like that. They are completely vulnerable to water, so they cannot enter the water whatsoever. Pawns without that burden. Are we moving a con here to grab this 5.2? Oh, I love that. Wait, what are we doing here? We're sending a constructor very aggressively forward right here. Future 3D? Or futured? Maybe it's futured. Going very, very early with the constructor out. I'm surprised to see a constructor rather than the commander moving forward. Basically exactly what we see right here from MV Pete, who is going to step forward and go ahead and claim this 5.2 using an LLT, and then eventually the commander to build that metal extractor. Clearly there's a plan right here. Oh, it's going to be an HLT. Wow, okay. Well, that's a aggressive way to kick off this match, but I don't hate it. We do have a nice little engagement from these pawns. Ooh, if they jump on top of that, a little more aggression. One of those pawns would have gone down. Not the end of the world, of course, but it would have been very, very nice. All right, clock is ticking. 2 minutes and 30 seconds before this HLT comes online, but obviously that's accounting for not stalling resources right here, which the green commander is, so it will likely be even longer than that before this HLT comes up. It is a delicate dance, right? Because you have to constantly be making sure that you're funneling resources into this so it's as quick as possible. Because if this gets shut down, you're wasting so much metal. Ugh, yeah. Tim Essener, I'm not entirely sure how to pronounce the orange commander's name here. Sees this and immediately moves the commander forward. And of course, going for a D-gun on that is always an option, but it's not even really necessary here. Obviously, these grunts and pawns will be sufficient to blast all this down, yeah. Very greedy strategy punished by very simple defense. And now we have units running into the backline. Those grunts, with their 100% laser, 100% accurate laser beams, going to be quite good at taking down ticks nowadays. Means that tick defense against grunts is not going to be the superior option. Going for pawns is going to work out a little bit better here. It's not to say ticks can't do the job, but they do it just a lot less efficiently than once they did. Nice snipe right here from this grunt. Look at that. MVP manages to take down both 2 out of 3 of the major metal extractors here for the Seafoam Green Commander, and it does leave, well, it leaves a big production stall. Yeah, you can see we're trying to pump out a Rocketeer, but our metal economy has been cut basically in a third. Not bad here. The red team actually conquering basically the entire midsection. LLT here to defend against any sort of shenanigans built on the high ground here. Future 3D trying, or Futured trying desperately to get an LLT up on the high ground, but without extra build power or any other way to keep that LLT alive while it's built under the field of the other LLT, it's just not going to happen. Resbot here, look at that. Cheeky play from the Orange Commander. Reses the constructor here that was sent out by the Green Com in order to reuse it. I love that play. Hopefully we see some sort of static defense. We can always go for, of course, those coastal static defenses or HLTs, but it's going to be a beamer turret this time around. And again, I don't mind that at all. Of course, that means suddenly rocket bots are going to have a little bit of trouble on the front line here. Thugs and other plasma bots coming up right here across the field, and it looks like Gogandantes, the Seafoam Green Commander, is going to try and collapse on top of these. And there's LLTs coming up, though. MVP is, well, dug his heels in quite nicely on the front line here, trying to make sure that there's no way for these units to push forward. Oh, we don't want to lose that Centurion. Oh, that's a really huge expense. Losing that Centurion so early is really unfortunate. Centurion's not very good on this map because their LLTs get blocked by the water, I believe. That's a tricky situation. Meanwhile, the Blue Commander has done a great job in the Navy. Looks like we've done a little bit of battling, a little bit of scuffling back and forth. Reed Sweet in the water, in the backline position here. Yeah, accompanying the Brown Commander. So this is risky, right? This is normally where the air player would sit. Pardon me, no it isn't. This is where the tech player would sit. Going for eco as quickly as possible, but instead it's going to be Reed Sweet opting to go for naval control over tech. It means that as we get into the late game, it's going to be difficult to maintain that scaling, right? That's basically what the tech player is for, is to try and front run the eco scaling. If you give that up in order for a naval trade, well, you have to just be very aware of the fact that if you don't win that Navy trade, suddenly the enemy team has thousands and thousands of extra metal in their bank account. Here's a favorable trade right here for the Blue Commander. Manages to get these frigates and a destroyer fighting against a bunch of these aggravators here. Beautiful engagement right there. Going to be easing the pressure put onto the Green Commander by relieving them of the army, or by relieving the Orange Commander of their army. It's very easy to command an army that doesn't exist. Even managing to take down these static defenses here, and going to be firing away at the metal extractors as well. MVP going for that good old-fashioned plasma bot walk. The undying army of plasma bots walking forward right here, but we are supplementing that with some medium tanks rolling out of a vehicle lab transition here. From the bot lab to the vehicle lab. It's a super, super powerful composition. The best part about it is, of course, you can get those res bots out. We should have some on the field here somewhere. The res bots are really powerful because, well, vehicles don't have res bots, but they're worth so much metal when their wrecks go down. So if you manage to reclaim all that wreckage from the vehicles, as well as whatever's remaining of your T1 army, the thugs here for the Red Commander, you can put yourself in a really fabulous position, trading out very, very efficiently against enemy compositions, especially if they're especially if they're bot compositions and you have vehicles. Medium tanks don't care all too much about rockets or plasma shots here, at least not from these T1 units. And you can see it's just harassing down these plasma bots and these rocketeers here. Very difficult to fight into for the Purple Commander for the time being. Mass Plasma Bot is probably the right answer here. That or Centurion. Centurion can work really, really well against medium tanks, but you need a critical mass of them. At this point, there's enough medium tanks that you'd need 3 or 4 Centurion in order to shut them down efficiently. And here they are, headed towards the purple base. Meanwhile, the Purple Commander Matejko is actually in a lot of trouble. Riot tank and medium tank firing away here at the Purple Commander. Boom goes the Purple Commander. Nicely done right there by the Red Com, allowing the Hot Pink forces to push forward. A pincer maneuver, if ever there was one. Suddenly alleviating all the pressure from the Hot Pink Commander Snorkelwag, who is now moving in with the entire army. Yeah, watching the bots brawl it out against these tanks, it really starts to hurt after a little while. The tank's obviously quite a bit more expensive than the bots, but once you have a slight advantage, you can afford to pay for the more expensive unit and accentuate that advantage by going into those medium tanks. That's exactly what we see right here from MVP, who just gobbled up 1,000 or so metal. Now we have bombers coming across the map, those good old-fashioned Stormbringer bombers with their 17% less bomb spread. I laugh because I don't know if it's enough to make them even remotely competitive with the Whirlwind bombers, but I guess time will tell. Future needs to get a move on here, so has been pushing quite nicely. Of course, these metal extractors were killed by the frigates. Now is the moment where, yeah, the Green Commander has to continue the aggression or fall backwards and go for tech. That's sort of the two options available, and it looks like it's going to be the latter here for the Green Commander as they finish up one of those good old-fashioned T2 Armada bot labs. With proper micro, you can use plasma bots in equivalent numbers to beat medium tanks. The way that you win that fight is just by out microing, out target firing your opponent, using your plasma bots and their ability to ball up and fire away into the distance to just target down specific medium tanks. The self D on the on the E converter here. I love the idea. Very difficult to pull off in actual execution. Green Commander does go down, by the way. Yeah, this southern side is in shambles. T2 Laboratory was started. My goodness. Units were what we needed right there, not a T2 Laboratory. It was a Hail Mary of a play right there from the Purple Commander, who's already topped out of this game here. As now the red tanks are going to start, firing their way into the base right here on the southern side. We have two commanders idle. Maybe waiting for an opportunity when these fighters are distracted so that they can move in. But for the time being, standing very still and just waiting to see what's going to happen with these destroyers versus these frigates. Lovely navy been built up here by Bobbler Man. Missed most of the engagement, but you can sort of tell based on just how these armies are shaped that 2 frigates and 2 destroyers, now 3 destroyers, going up against 3 frigates and a submarine is a gigantic positive trade here for the Pink Commander. Things are looking quite nice right now for Bobbler Man. Northern side has actually not been that bad either here. SK-10 doing a great job on the Navy. Plenty of destroyers out now. We have the missile trucks as well as anti-air, but also as scouting. We have a dead commander on the front line, and that's been easily turned into a whole bunch of units or a whole bunch of economy. Oh yeah, we have a forward production facility. Okay. Yeah, we're just cranking out more and more of these units on the fronts here. The constant skirmishing is what allows this to happen. Core units have slightly longer range in the Navy, so as long as they're constantly trading out against Armada units, you can sort of beat down the Armada commander until eventually they're left with not enough units to contend against you. But this is quite a lot of destroyers. It's well worth pointing out. We are talking about a grand... How many is that? 6 or 7 destroyers right here for the yellow commander. Many of which handed over, of course, by the brown commander, and they're still rattling out of the laboratory here from the yellow comm, who has just gone ahead and gone for tons and tons of production in the water rather than going for that eco-skilling like I mentioned before. My precious hound. Without their Gauss mode here, whiffing their shots against even the slowest of medium tanks. No, they're actually still relatively accurate. They're just not very good against fast-moving targets. But you can see against these missile trucks, they're still extremely powerful. Fiends running out as well here, and they're going to be quite good against, well, better, I would say, against this riot tank here. At the very least, they're not nearly as expensive, so they're much easier to justify losing. Gogandantis with a nice hold, but a tremendous red advantage here, to say the very least. Now, if there were times for a comeback, it would definitely be something like this. Stop eco, says the Green Commander. Interestingly, no major eco commander here for either of these two teams, which is a little bit odd. Usually we see at least one commander going for full Greedo mode. Not the case in this engagement, though, which is a bit strange. Bobbler Man making a move on Disami, trying to corner those commanders with a couple of LLTs here. They're gonna hug it out. How we have 2 commanders that ended up on this island at the same time is just, it's beyond me. I have no idea how this happened. I don't know if either of these commanders know how this happened either, but it's not a great situation. The Navy here is having, there's time to rebuild, which is concerning me. Are we going into T2 or something? No, we're just continuing the unit production. Okay. If these metal extractors turn into T2 metal extractors, it can be well worth it. But you have to keep that constantly upgrading, otherwise it becomes an issue. Gogandantos reclaiming tons and tons of metal from the front line here in order to pay for, well, base expansions and all sorts of other stuff. We do have a butler right here, rebuilding these metal extractors. Little goat-hoofed construction bot. And MVP sneaking around into the backline. Hound's firing away right there at that uncloaked commander. Running out of energy to stay cloaked constantly. And now in a little bit of danger. We do have some units here, but we don't have a destroyer to actually hunt this down properly. We just have the submarine, which can launch those torpedoes. Dealing tons of damage, of course, to the red commander. but very easy for the Red Commander to dodge as well. Wow. Whoa, sorry, trying to get this camera over here. That hill is getting in my way. Destroyers here, taking a fabulous trade right now. Oh my goodness. Yeah, what wonderful target firing right there from the Yellow Commander. Manages to actually burst down all those blue destroyers, basically one by one, until the blue comm SK-10 has been left with almost nothing. Reed Sweet taking a fabulous trade in the Navy here. Oh my goodness. The naval battle is a fickle one. In just a moment, in just a single engagement, you can completely lose control of the naval scene. Just like that, thousands of metal, 10,500 metal, now left on the front lines here for the reclamation. Well, that smells like T2 in the water if ever I did see it. Hopefully we get a constructor up and running. We have a res sub to go reclaim all that. Hopefully we get a constructor, some more build power, maybe a metal storage, and eventually into the water in T2. Yeah, 10,000 metal well and away justifies the cost of all that. Red Commander did go down eventually, by the way. Largely at the cost of the Blue Navy, though. The Powder Blue Commander, Ludwolf, trying desperately to hold on. Having a rough time of it. Snorkelwhack, meanwhile, managed to degun down some fiends over here. You can still see the scars of that battle destroying the natural terrain. At least one of these commanders has escaped. Yeah, heavy transport not gonna make it. I'm looking for a dead commander over here. Oh yeah, there we go. R.I.P. The commander who tried. I'm surprised that Disney isn't going for anything with this commander right here. Going for, I don't know, a vehicle laboratory, some LLTs, maybe trying to capture this delicious 5.2 metal extractor. Yeah, no play right here from the Cyan commander on the southern side, somehow trapped on the southern side. Very odd to see. The red team with a definitive advantage. At this point, it's going to take the blue team with a miracle to come back into this match. Sometimes the best way to win a game of Beyond a Reason is to win a little bit and turn that little bit of an advantage into a lot of bit of an advantage. And that feels like what we've seen right here. The red team just sort of cracking this midsection a little bit quicker, poking through the defenses and trying to constantly prod. And with a couple of fabulous trades like the one we saw up north here, yeah, things became very, very effective. 3v1, so fun. You know you've done it right if the top-level commander starts complaining into chat. Now we've got ducks headed out in the water. Teamwork makes the dream work. It's good life advice, but in Beyond a Reason, it's especially important. Hounds out on the field are going to be nice against the T1 stuff, but we do have Fiends rolling out as well. MVP sending those Fire Spitters across to try and find some value here. Without Gauss mode, it's going to be difficult for that Hound to hit them, though. Swing and a miss. And this Fiend will be able to burn down all these metal extractors that were rebuilt here by the Green Commander. I appreciate Admos trying valiantly to try and get in here. For whatever reason, these cons are not helping build this poor construction worker here. Oh no. Well, that's taking ages because these turrets aren't helping. There they go. Helping with the last second of production right there. That's not a... It's not even a micro mistake. That's just a weird interaction of the turrets on the map there. And I think I'm going to go ahead and speed this up. Yeah. Sheldon on the front line firing away now. I mean, T1 static defenses are obviously nothing in the face of all that. We have rocket spiders moving in as well. And we have a big old swarm of ducks headed across the map. Shuriken's going to be... Well, they're going to have a difficult time shutting that down. We are not on T2 air yet, by the way. We should have had the Geo over here. It looks like it was the Green Commander, Admos, that actually got the Geo up and running. Curiously. But we do have ourselves a nice little Hound versus Sheldon battle. Hound's trying their best, but they have a really hard time comparing to their Cortex counterpart. That range difference really makes all the world of a difference. Oh, just like that. The blue team feels the futility of their efforts as the rocket spiders climb over the hill and shut down some of that energy production as the ducks destroy the backline with their little torpedo missile launchers right out of their mouths. the red team manages to overwhelm the blue in a very one-sided game of Beyond All Reason. Thanks a ton for watching. If you did enjoy this game, please feel free to like and subscribe and all that good stuff that YouTubers love to show out at the end of every video. And I hope to see you in the very next cast of Beyond All Reason. Peace out, everybody.